Welcome to the Wealthy Woman's Podcast, a podcast for high-achieving women who are great at making money but struggle to build wealth. You'll learn how to take control of your money, increase your net worth, and make more. Ladies, it's time to create a life with more money and more freedom. Let's dive in. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the 100th episode of the Wealthy Woman's Podcast. I cannot believe that those words just came out of my mouth. You don't understand. I had been thinking about creating this podcast for years. So many people told me that I should create a podcast, and I listened and I knew that I wanted to do this, but there were a few things that were holding me back. One of those things was I kept telling myself that I didn't have enough to talk about. And so one day I just challenged myself to come up with 100 episode topics, and I came up with like 150. So that excuse just went out the window. And then the other thought I had was, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to do this. You don't know how to upload things to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Like, how are you going to figure out all of this technology? And one day I was just scrolling on Facebook, and a young lady put a post out just offering to help women launch their podcasts within 30 days. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I need. And I talked to her and she laid out the plan, and I knew she could help me. So that excuse was out the window. And then I was left with the real reasons why I was procrastinating and not launching this podcast. And it was because I didn't feel like I had enough to say. I didn't think I was worthy enough to have a podcast. Who did I think I was to even want to do something like this? I also thought that I wouldn't be consistent and nobody would listen. And so all of the thoughts that my brain were offering me just came to the surface. Once those surface, superficial kind of smokescreen thoughts were debunked, oh, you don't have enough to talk about, or oh, you don't know how to, get it launched. Once those were gone, then the real reasons came bubbling up to the surface. And the truth is, all of those thoughts were lies that my brain was offering me just to stay stuck in my comfort zone, just to stay hidden and small where nobody would know who I was, that I could help them. And it was just keeping me in my comfort zone. And I want you to know that this is normal. This happens all the time. It happens to my clients too, especially when they're at the point, maybe they've been listening to the podcast and they know they want to take things further. They want to go beyond just listening to me talk, and they want actual help applying all the things and literally changing their financial life forever. One of the thoughts that their brain often offers them is, oh my gosh, that's too expensive. The other thing is, you don't have time. And then once they're able to work through those, because the truth is, we all have time. We all have more than enough time to do the things that truly matter to us. It may mean that we're going to need to reallocate some things. Maybe we are not scrolling on social media as often. Maybe we're not binging Netflix as often, but we all can carve out a couple hours a month to work on our money. We all have that amount of time. We just may need to reallocate and reprioritize how we spend our time. The other thing is the money, right? Oh, I can't afford it, or I've never done anything like this before. And the truth is, you ladies make plenty of money. And if you could see what's available to you, I think you would be willing to make the trade. And so when people see what's available to them, it's like, oh, okay, then that money excuse is out the window. And then they're left with the real reasons, the real smokescreen reasons their brain offers them. Reasons like, I'm not good enough. I don't think I can do this. I'm just bad with money. What if it doesn't work for me? What if I fizzle out? What if I don't follow through? So all of the self-doubt, which is the real reason why you're not taking action, right? And that was what was happening to me. I had all these smokescreen reasons, but the real reasons I wasn't taking action was because I didn't believe in myself. I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think I was good enough, or that I had what it took. And again, I see this with my clients as well. And when we're able to know that actually, if you have a desire, if you have a nudge towards a better financial life, then it's possible for you. But you have to be willing to do things you've never done before. You have to be willing to allow the nervousness and the fear to be there and to move forward anyway. This is the only way we grow. And so, yes, I was nervous. I was afraid. I was shaking in my boots the first time I published my first podcast. And I told my money story, which is a very vulnerable story. And then I just hit my stride and it became natural. And it's unnatural for me to not release that podcast episode every single week. And so I see it with my clients. Once they get in their stride, once they start taking action, once they get through the hard part, of saying yes and then learning a few new skills, those skills then become their new way of life. And it becomes second nature. It just becomes what they do and who they are. So please take my podcasting story and apply it to your life. What are you afraid of doing? What are you afraid of stepping into? This could be a perfect opportunity to check in with yourself and see what's holding you back. Is it fear? Is it that you really don't want to do this thing? And if it's fear, just know that it's normal to be nervous when you're stepping outside your comfort zone. But just because you're nervous, that doesn't mean stop. That just might mean growth is on the horizons. And don't let your primitive brain stop you from pursuing that, because it's going to offer all kinds of thought obstacles to keep you right in your familiar comfort zone, even though the truth is the comfort zone is uncomfortable because you don't like being there. And so I am so excited about this 100th episode, and I'm looking forward to 100 more. And to celebrate, I have a contest that I want to share with you all. So one of the things I know for sure is that a lot of you found the podcast through your friends and your families. Actually, some of my clients tell me, oh, someone sent this to me, sent your podcast to me, and I've been listening for a long time, and now I'm ready to work with you. So my request is that you share this podcast. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, I'm sure there's a little way that you can share right from your smartphone. Share it with your sisters, your best friends, your coworkers, your aunts, your mother. Share it with people in your life that could use this message, because sharing is caring. Now, this is not a part of the contest. This is just something I'm asking you to do. But here's what the contest looks like. There are two parts to the contest. So with Apple Podcasts, they show the podcast more if the show has more reviews. So the more reviews the show has, the more people they show it to. So I would love for you all to leave a review on Apple Podcasts for this show. And once you do that, take a screenshot of it. That's the first part of the contest, is to leave a review, take a screenshot. The second part of the contest is I'm also looking to grow my Instagram. I will be doing reels over there, posts and lives, and I would love for you all to follow me on Instagram at Jermaine Foley Coaching. So my Instagram handle is at Jermaine Foley Coaching, and right below this podcast in the show notes, the link is right there for you. So you can click on it or just go to Jermaine Foley Coaching. Remember, that's Jermaine with a G, and follow me. Now, here's how you enter yourself into the contest. Send me an email. The email address is info@jermainefoley.com. And again, that's right in the show notes. I'm making this super easy for you. The steps will be right in the show notes. Send me an email with your screenshot and with your Instagram handle so that I can verify that you are one of my new followers. And the winners, there will be two winners. I will announce the winners during the week before Thanksgiving. So I think it's the week of the 18th, November 18th, 2024. I will announce two winners. I won't do it publicly. I will just send them an email with a $50 Target gift card. So it'll be an e-gift card to Target just in time for the holiday season. You will have that gift card in your inbox. Two people. How you do it again? You go to Apple, leave a review. I hope it's a 5-star review. Leave a review, take a screenshot, then go over to Instagram, follow me at Jermaine Foley Coaching, and then send me an email with your handle and your screenshot, and you will be entered to win one of those $50 Target gift cards. All right. Now, the last thing I have to share before we get into today's episode, which is a good one, it's all about how to enjoy the holidays without overspending, without going into debt, without digging into your savings. I'm having this conversation with Allison Baggerly of the Inspired Budget. So excited for this. And with that, I created a holiday spending guide for you that is going to give you 8 ways that you can enjoy the holiday season without overspending, without breaking the bank. Because I want you, and you're going to hear me and Allison talk about this, I want you to wake up on January 1st feeling really good about your financial situation. And honestly, I want you to wake up December 26th feeling good about your financial situation. You'll hear Allison in this episode talk about what she discovered a couple years ago on her website. She found that Christmas Day, later in the day, her website views exploded, where people were looking at how to get back on track financially because they had overdone it for Christmas, right? They woke up Christmas morning, watched all the gifts be opened, and then they felt this nagging feeling inside of them because they had overspent. They were over budget. They were now in debt. And she said that that was something that was a light bulb moment for her to know that, yeah, people look like they're having a great time on the surface with all of the overspending and impulse purchases during the holiday season. But once that crash comes, it comes hard, right? Because for every high, there is a low. And I want your holiday season to be different this year. So grab the guide. All you have to do is go to jermainefoley.com/guide. That's jermainefoley.com/guide. And again, you can go to the show notes to grab that. And it will be there for you to guide you along the way. Print it out if you can, or save it to your phone so you can refer to it over and over again. A lot of it that I share on that guide, a lot of the information that I share is mindset. And that is the key to having your mind right, having a plan and following through with those plans, even when you don't want to, even when you're tempted to not do so. Okay, I know this was a lot, so let me go ahead and recap. So the most important thing is to get yourself entered into the contest to win a $50 Target gift card just in time for the holiday season. And all you got to do is go to Apple Podcasts, leave a review, take a screenshot, and then go to Instagram, follow me at Jermaine Foley Coaching. That's my handle. And then email me your screenshot and your handle so that I can verify that you are one of my new followers. And then you will be entered into a drawing to win a $50 Target gift card that will be emailed to you. So it will be an e-gift card just in time for Black Friday. And then the next thing is to grab the holiday spending guide so that you can enter into the holidays armed with a mindset that is unshakable and a mindset that will allow you to enjoy the season without putting yourself in a financial bind. And you do that by going to jermainefoley.com/guide. All right, let's get into today's episode with Allison Baggerly. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited. Today, we have a special guest. Her name is Allison Baggerly from the Inspired Budget, and we are going to talk all about holiday spending, planning for the holidays, and a bunch of other good stuff. Allison, thank you so much for being here and saying yes to this interview.
Oh, Jermaine, it is my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Can you share, before we get started, can you share your journey with creating the Inspired Budget and what inspired you to focus on helping other people with budgeting?
Honestly, Jermaine, I never set out to start a business. That was never my intention. I actually just kind of found myself in this process because of what my husband and I had learned over time. So taking you all the way back, and I promise I'll say this quickly. I'll paraphrase it for you. Taking you back to 2012, I got married and got pregnant on my honeymoon. So at the age of 24, which I feel like is really young, I got married, got pregnant, and had a baby all in 1 year. It was a whirlwind. And when that happened, my husband and I, we were both teachers at the time. He's still a teacher. We realized we would not be able to afford daycare payments whenever I went back to work. And me staying home and being a stay-at-home parent was just not an option. And that was the first time we ever talked about money, ever. And which I do not recommend. We were married and had never had a discussion about money. And that's when we totaled up and realized that we had over $111,000 worth of debt. So we decided, okay, something has to give. We have to pay this off and free up money to be able to afford daycare whenever our baby came and I was ready to go back to work. So that's when we first decided to start budgeting. We first started paying off debt, and we did that. It took us 4.5 years, which felt like forever, on 2 teacher salaries. We ended up having 2 kids during that time. So we had 2 kids in daycare. And when we were done, I figured I would go back to my normal spending habits. I would stop budgeting, and it didn't happen because I had truly changed my lifestyle, changed my relationship with money over that 4.5 year long process. And I became really passionate about helping other people who felt like they didn't really know how to manage their money. They were never taught. Maybe they had this negative relationship with money. I felt really passionate about helping them and really taking my skill set as a teacher to teach people how to manage their money better so that they had that feeling of financial peace.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Your story is very similar to mine, and I can't wait to share it with you. Because, by the way, I will be on Allison's podcast soon, so I'll share my story there. But we had over $200,000 worth of debt, and daycare was the thing.
Oh man, it is. And the thing is my kids are old. And so I look back now and I'm like, that was cheap, right? Like if you look at daycare now, it's just so astronomical. And I can see why people are hesitant to have children because of daycare costs, especially if you
Yes,
can't afford for one person to stay home. So yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to hear
absolutely.
your story on my
Oh
podcast.
my gosh. And just to give you a little taste, when we had baby number 2, our daycare bill was the exact same amount as our mortgage. And that is what made me know that I had to change my life, because there was no
Oh
way
my gosh.
we
Yeah.
were going to be able to do that without making some drastic changes.
Mhm.
So I feel you. We are sisters. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you have built a huge following on Instagram. What do you think resonates most with, and how have you maintained that connection?
Oh gosh. I think what resonates most is whenever I'm real and honest and I connect with people on how they're feeling, but maybe they're not willing to say it out loud when it comes to money, such as I feel like I have to budget because I'm bad with money, right? We have these things where budget is a 4-letter word. A lot of people might have shame around having debt because we did the best we could with what we knew at the time. And maybe what we knew at the time isn't what we know now. I know that for me growing up, I was not raised in a home where positive financial habits were in place. So I didn't see that. My parents were doing the best they could with what they knew at the time. So when I was then an adult, I didn't have this model for me set out. And I did what I could, right? I had these ideas about money that maybe were not healthy, but I was willing as an adult, once I found myself in that situation, to say, I don't like the way I think about money in this way. I don't like that I see budgeting as this consequence for my past money choices and like I'm so ashamed and therefore I have to budget. How can I reframe this? And I think that a lot of people need help with that reframing, or even understanding that you can reframe that we can think about our money and about our debt in a different light. So I think that definitely is what helps me connect with people. And then I'm a teacher at heart. I have Real People Budget series on my Instagram. I started it years and years and years ago when I wanted to share my own budget, and my amazing husband, who is a very private person, he basically said, veto. I don't I'm not comfortable with that. So I thought, well, how can I showcase and truly teach budgeting? And I thought, why don't I have people send me their information and I'll share theirs? So part of, I think, my Instagram and my philosophy is to teach and show. And so I have a lot of different budgets that I show. So there's that connection piece, yet also that educational piece that keeps people coming back.
Love it. You all have to follow Allison on Instagram at Inspired Budget. She has these cool videos where she literally shows you how to budget. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I know some of my audience members, they think budgeting is the B word. And I am trying to get them to think about it a lot differently. So I love what you said, that budgeting is not a punishment. Like, you don't need to budget because you've done something bad. You need to budget or create a spending plan so that you can build wealth, so that you can have a grasp of your money and it not just disappear.
Yes. And I think so much of that probably comes back to what maybe we saw as children or how we have seen budgeting in the past, because I know growing up, my parents would fight about money. And so whenever there was a budget, there were arguments, there was tension. And so I look at it as, okay, what are my children? I have two children, a 12-year-old boy and a 10-year-old boy. And I think, what are they going to think about budgeting when they are an adult and they are having this conversation with their partner one day? And I want them to look back and say, oh, budgeting allowed us to do so many amazing things. Like, we were able to go to Hawaii when I was younger because we were able to budget and save for it. And so I think so much of it comes from our past experiences, which we cannot control, and which I think that we need to have a lot of grace and empathy, because like I said, my parents, your parents, us in the past, we did the best we could with what we knew at the time. And now it's just about, what are you willing to learn differently now?
Yes. And I think you and I have the same philosophy. One of the concepts I teach is that strict budgets don't work, right? They don't work. And when you learn how to actually budget or create a spending plan that is based on what's most important to you, value-wise, and financial goals are also included, then it's like so much freedom. It's just the most liberating thing. I can't imagine living my life without a spending plan or a budget. It's just like, I feel like, what's happening? It's almost like not brushing your teeth. You got to brush your teeth.
Yes. Or going on a road trip without Google Maps.
Yeah.
I would not go on a road trip without Google Maps, even if I knew how to get to the place, because I would want to know if there's going to be traffic along the way. Should I detour to find a faster route? Like, I want to know those things. Is there construction I need to avoid? I would have so much anxiety not using Google Maps, which is crazy because, in the past, we just used regular paper maps.
We did. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And we are almost into the holiday season. And so I asked Allison to come on and have a conversation with you all about holiday spending and how we can avoid overspending during the holidays, but still have a holiday season that's enjoyable, that's full of love, that's full of joy, and all the things that the season is about. And so with that, Allison, before we get into all of the details, the holidays can be really, really stressful, especially when it comes to money and finances. What advice do you have around dealing with financial stress during the holidays?
I think that you hit the nail on the head. It can be really stressful. I think that it's stressful because things pop up that we're just not on our mind. We're not in our sight, right? We have different holiday parties that pop up, different random expenses, holiday things that you just didn't think about earlier, and they catch you off guard. And when we feel like we're caught off guard, we immediately go on this defensive, and there's stress there. So I think that in terms of dealing with holiday stress, find a buffer, create a buffer in your budget. Here's what that looks like for me and my family. If we are going to typically we spend about $200 per child, sometimes $300. As they get older, their gifts become more expensive, unfortunately. So our price goes up. But we spend this amount of money and we might have we have a total budget for holidays that includes both gifts for our children, for our family, friends, holiday parties, any things like that. I always add on at least a $200 buffer on top of that. And what that does is when things come up unexpectedly, which they will, it's not about if, it's about when for me. When something comes up unexpectedly, I just hadn't thought about that cost, I can think, okay, I have a buffer. This is going to come out of that buffer. And sometimes it's as simple as we tell my son, okay, you have 8 teachers. We can't give everyone a $25 gift card or a $20 gift card. Choose maybe 2 teachers that you're really close with and you really appreciate, let's get them, or we can spread it out. And then sometimes he comes to us and he says, hey, I forgot about one teacher. I really want to give this teacher a gift. Okay, let's pull that out of the buffer. So that has really helped us not feel as stressed with finances because we know that something's going to come up. We are going to go over budget in one category or another. And having that extra money there just really helps because it, number one, doesn't make me feel like a failure, like I failed following the plan. And number 2, it's like, oh, Allison, you knew this was going to happen. Like, look at you. You're doing the right thing. This is covering that cost.
I love that because it's almost like not thinking, well, if I go over budget or if something happens that I wasn't expecting, it's just like, no, I'm going to put this money aside for when something happens that I wasn't expecting during the holidays. You're right. There's always something. You could even have, a little party at your house and you want to give everybody a favor. And then you find out, oh, we've got more people coming. You just never know. Mm-hmm. So I love the fact that you're just anticipating that something's going to not be perfect and you're going to be prepared for that. Love it so much.
Exactly. And if you end up not using that money, it can just be saved for the following holidays, for the next year. You get like this head start on saving for the next year's holidays.
Yes, love it. So with that, what are the most common mistakes do you think people make when it comes to holiday spending?
I think that people do not, I know what it is. People do not make a plan and then they overspend. And when I say a plan, we all have this plan in our minds, right? Especially women. I feel like we can map it all out in our minds. We know who we need to buy gifts for. I think it really comes down to gifts. Who we need to buy gifts for. We have this like little checklist. I know I do. I have this little checklist, but I think so many people don't set an amount, a gift amount. And it can feel really frustrating because you're thinking, oh, am I like assigning this person a worth? No, you're not. You're assigning them a budgeted gift amount. That's it. And so instead of assigning these budgeted gift amounts, we go shopping and instead we are just searching for the perfect gift for that person, regardless of price. And all of that, while it's amazing and loving and so thoughtful, it can add up to spending a lot more than you would have if you had set a price. So what I do instead, and I do this every year, usually in October or early November, I will sit down and I have a spreadsheet where I have every single person that I'm going to give a gift to down to, we have 2 amazing housekeepers that come every other week. I give them a cash gift. We have teachers. We set aside money for teachers, all of these different people. And I put their name in a spreadsheet. I put the gift idea, if I have an idea, and I assign them an amount. How much am I spending? Whether it's I'm buying a gift card or I'm getting them a candle or a toy, whatever it is. And my goal is to stay at that amount or under. And I know that if I see something that looks amazing and it's double the price, I can still find something that resonates, right? Like the perfect gift doesn't have to be the most expensive one. I can still give a gift that people will appreciate. And so going into it with a price per person, or you can even say a price per category, you could say teachers, friends, immediate family, extended family, but going in with an idea is what's going to help you not overspend. And then checking that off your list, right? So often I think people will be shopping for, if I'm shopping for you, Jermaine, I could be shopping for you. And then I see, oh my gosh, my husband would love that. Let me just add that to his gift. Well, I already bought him a gift. Just because I see something else I think he would like doesn't mean I have to get him that too. And I think a lot of people do that, especially parents. We feel like there has to be like this quantity, not quality. And especially when they're little, I feel like you want them to wake up and see all these things. But let me tell you, when they get older, all those things get more expensive. So having that, being able to like close that loop in your mind and say, I'm done buying this for this person, let me cross them off my list, is really helpful.
I love that so much. Okay, so I teach a concept called creating kind of like a spending protocol for yourself. So just like you said, you're out and about buying a gift for me. I appreciate that, Allison.
Yes. Yep. For you.
For me. And then you see something that is amazing for your husband. You almost want to anticipate that. So like, okay, when I'm out buying a gift for Jermaine and I see something for someone else, what am I going to do? It's almost like you've got to plan how you're going to behave when that urge comes, because the urge is going to come. It's going to come. And you can set yourself like a 24-hour rule where you say, okay, I'm not buying it. And if I really want it, within 24 to 48 hours, I'll come back. Or you can have a sentence that you say to yourself, like, no, I already purchased something for him, so I'm not, you know what I mean? You just want to almost plan for that experience because you know yourself, and we're all human and we have urges. And I know that's my issue. You hit it on the head. When I'm out and about buying for one person and I see something that somebody else would love, that's my trigger. And I have to have a protocol for myself when that happens. So that was so good.
I love it. And another thing is if you see something that's even better, you can return the original thing you bought as long as you haven't gifted it. So I think so often we think when it comes to holidays, we're in this giving spirit. And I know some people just love to give, right? And that's how they show love. And it's really easy to think like, if I've already got this gift for Jermaine, but I see something else I know she'll love, like, let me just give her both things. No. If you see something else she loves more, you can return that other thing as long as you haven't gifted it to her. So keep that in mind as an option, because I think that in that holiday time, we forget that that is a possibility.
Yeah, keep your receipts, please.
Yes.
And usually during the holidays, there's an extended return policy. So keep all of your receipts. So just in case you do find something, so that could be part of your protocol. Like if I'm out and about and I've already purchased something for someone and I see something better, I can buy it, but I have to return it.
Exactly.
That could be your protocol right there. Everybody has their own individualized protocols that they can create for themselves. Now, I want to address something that we kind of alluded to, like during the holidays, everybody wants to be in this giving spirit. It's about love and appreciation. And one of the things I love to remind people is to not forget yourself when it comes to that appreciation. And what I mean by that is not to buy yourself a gift, but to think of yourself, especially your future self that's going to be you in January, right? Who's going to have to deal with the consequences if you do go overboard in December. So keep her top of mind because she's the one who's going to have to deal with it. If you go over, if you go into debt, or if you spend more than you wanted to, and now your emergency fund or savings is lower, like she's the one that's going to have to deal with that. So be appreciative of her. Think about her too while you're out there buying for everyone else. Think about yourself as well.
Yes. I have an interesting story. 2 years ago, I was working, this was after Christmas, and I was getting ready for the new year. And, that's when I'm really busy. I'm sure that's when you're really busy. And I was looking at my website statistics, like how many page views I had on different days. And I think it was the year 2022. I had the most page views on my website on Inspired Budget on Christmas Day out of any other day that whole year. in the entire year of 2022, it was on Christmas Day. And I remember seeing that and my heart dropped. And I wasn't excited. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, so many people are visiting my site. No, my heart dropped because I thought so many people sat there, watched all of their friends and family open the gifts, and their money, their financial decisions was just laid out all in front of them. And they said, what did I do? Because when you're buying things just here and there over an entire 1 month or 2 month time span, it doesn't feel like a lot. But when you see it all laid out in front of you, that's when it hits you. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's all been put on my credit card, or that all came out of my savings. And now I need to rebuild my savings. And it made me so sad to know that on Christmas Day, just thousands of people found themselves on my website looking for resources and help. And I think that, like what you just said, think about you and that self-care. That's what you avoid. You avoid that feeling on Christmas morning whenever you are looking at this and you're not filled with joy, you're filled with stress and anxiety. And like, got to hit the ground running, fix this mistake I made, fix this overspending. When you have a plan in advance, you avoid that. And that is, like you said, self-care.
And such a gift to yourself, such a gift to yourself. And I felt you like, when it's Christmas Day, that's like the best day of the year for a lot of people, their favorite holiday. And they may have gotten a little bit of joy of watching all the smiles, but then just a few hours later, they're like, that really does hit. And that's why we do the work that we do for people.
Exactly.
To know that they don't have to live like that. Like there's a better way. And we're sharing all the tips on how you can do this better. Okay. So what tips do you have around staying in budget and being creative? Kind of like, do you have any ideas around that? Like, okay, let's say I want to give gifts to people and I only have, $25 or $30. Like, do you have any creative ideas or strategies that you can kind of share with people to help them stay on budget?
Of course. Absolutely. So one way that I stay on budget, because I don't give these massive hundreds and hundreds of dollar gifts to all these people. I mean, I know some people are totally anti gift card. I love gift cards. I like receiving gift cards. I like giving gift cards. Very straightforward, very simple, not creative. I'll give you that. But one thing I recommend just in terms of the actual buying process is to give yourself a deadline for when you want your gift buying to be done. And then I'll talk on like inexpensive gift ideas, but give yourself a deadline. So what I mean by that is I will typically say I'm going to be done with all of my shopping, all of my gift shopping by December 1st. And so I give myself typically like a 2-week time period in November, and I typically go online because otherwise I will get real distracted in the store and I will find all these things that look great on that person. And when I can get all my gift shopping done and I have this deadline, the rest of the month, I'm not thinking about buying. I'm not thinking about spending money and buying gifts. Otherwise, if I didn't do it by a certain time period or give myself this timeline, I would be thinking about buying gifts every single time I walked into Target, every single time I'm on Amazon getting something for our house that has nothing to do with the holidays. And when you're able to kind of close that section of your brain off, then you're not seeing the things around you as opportunities to purchase for gifts. Now it's just stuff out there in the world that I don't need because I'm done with my gift giving. I'm done with my gift buying. So that has been really helpful for me as someone who loves to spend money and tends to overspend. That has been so transformative for me to do that. In terms of being creative, with not getting a lot of money. I mean, I always love doing something where it's like maybe for me, like for women, like a candle and a little gift card that's attached to it. Think of like maybe multiples that you can get of a couple of things and put it together in like a little package where it's not just one thing, but maybe 2 or 3 things that you can wrap up together, even if it's a candle and cookies or a small gift and like something you bake. I had a neighbor, which I was shocked she did this. She went around and she made toffee for everyone. And all of the people that were friends with her that maybe she would want to give a gift to, but we don't, she didn't want to spend $10 to $20 on all of us. She spent a day with her daughters. They made this Christmas dessert and they went around and hand delivered it to everyone in the neighborhood. And that was so touching. And I felt bad I didn't get her anything, but maybe I'll do that this year. Maybe this year I'll do a Christmas dessert. But really, when we get down to it, what is the purpose? The purpose is the thought, right? That saying, it's the thought that counts. I loved that that Blythe, my friend Blythe, thought about me and thought about including me. That was so special to me. Much more special than any $25 gift she could have given me. So I think that when we're thinking about friends and things like that, it's the thought that counts.
It truly, truly is. And one of the things I do sometimes, especially my coffee lover friends, I'll go to like TJ Maxx or Marshall's. They usually have a cute aisle filled with mugs, like cute mugs that were probably a lot more expensive someplace else. And I'll get them based on their personality, and I'll stuff it with like little crinkly papers in a Starbucks gift card for like $10 or something like that. Like you can do things like that for teachers. That's a great teacher gift as well. So get creative and have some fun with it. And if you have kids, get them involved. They can help pick out the things and bake the treats or whatever they're doing. But we just want to let you know that you do not have to break the bank in order to show your love and appreciation for others. And truly, it is the thought that counts. Whenever I get a gift, I get candles often and I get like a bottle of wine sometimes. I'm always just like, oh my gosh, you thought of me. It's not like, oh my gosh, this candle is so amazing. And it's just, you thought of me. And keep that top of mind when you're out there shopping and spending.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
Awesome. Okay, so we're almost getting to the end here. So if someone does end up overspending during the holidays, what steps should they take in January or maybe even right after Christmas to get back on track? What are your tips around that?
Absolutely. So, and it'll happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, number one, face it, right? We have to face our truth, own your truth, and just say, okay, now that I did this, whether or not I'm happy or sad or mad or glad about it, whatever it is, let me create a plan to pay off if you owe debt or you took money out of savings. Let me come up with a plan to get back to where I need to be. And I think that it's wise to literally come up with a plan. It's another thing to just say like, oh, I'm going to do that. And then that stress just sits on you. And then anytime maybe someone in your family wants to go out to eat, you're like, no, because you're thinking we have to fix our financial situation because we went overboard. Instead of doing that, when you have a plan, we're not reacting so emotionally and negatively when other things happen in our life. So I would say total up. Let's just say that it's credit cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that you had a budget for Christmas, but you went over budget and you ended up putting $500 on your credit card. And you paid some of it with money you had saved, but you went overboard by $500. Come up with a plan. How can you pay off that $500 in 4 weeks? What is it that you need to do? Can you take areas, I like to say, can you skim the top off of other categories in your budget? So for instance, if you normally budget $300 for restaurants, can you decrease that budget to $200? Take that extra $100 and put it to that credit card. So how can you skim the top off of different categories in your budget to pay it off? Sometimes you'll be able to pay it off quickly. Other times it might be a 2-month, 3-month plan, and that's okay. But come up with a plan. Find ways to get more income in and find ways to spend less so that you can focus on paying off that overspending amount.
Yes, I love that so much. The plan is imperative because if you don't plan, we women, we can come up with plans in our head, but we need to write it down. And when you write it down, it'll kind of relieve that stress that's in your brain. Like, oh my God, what are we going to do? You're like, no, I have a plan. This is what we're going to do. And the other thing I would add two more things. Before you even start your plan, don't beat yourself up about what happened, right? Give yourself grace, give yourself compassion. Just as Allison stated earlier in the conversation, you did the best you could in the moment, right? You may have had some urges and you didn't know how to process those urges. Maybe some things came unexpected and you have that buffer that Allison talked about earlier, right? So have some compassion, give yourself some grace, and know that you can figure it out. And then on the back end, come up with how you're going to avoid that next year. What can you learn from this year so that next year is not that? Maybe you start saving for Christmas every month. Maybe you're putting away $50 a month for Christmas in your high yield savings account, in your little bucket, or more or less, whatever it is, so that next time you don't have to deal with that again. So I think Allison's plan, her offer to you all to have a plan is spot on, and thus do it from a place of love for yourself, give yourself grace, and then learn from that as well.
Yes. And I know that some people might be listening to this and they might be saying, okay, it's November. Like, I should have heard this episode back in March. And I want you to give yourself grace and just say it's okay to not have a Christmas where you go all out this year. Because what you can do is you can kind of get scrappy, figure it out for this year. And that's exactly what my husband and I did. The very first Christmas, I had a very small budget because we hadn't saved any money. And I thought, we don't get Christmas bonuses. How are we supposed to do this? And then that following January, we started setting aside $50 a month into our high yield savings account to set aside money for Christmas because I didn't like that feeling. So if you feel like you're listening to this episode and you're like, wait, I don't have any money saved for Christmas. I'm not ready for this. You're giving me all these ideas, but I don't know what to do because I don't have the money yet. You can get scrappy. You can spend less this year, get by as best as you can without overspending, communicate that to family and friends, and then set a difference for next year. Set it up to where your money is automatically drafted out of your account on the 5th of every month. That's when mine comes out, the 5th of every month, to go into a high yield savings account for Christmas, because I can promise you the holidays are night and day when you are not stressed about money. You can truly enjoy and live in the moment. And I'm not saying you can't live in the moment when you're stressed about money, but there's always that nagging feeling in the back of your mind. There's always that cloud. And when you have all the money saved and you're able to pay for it right then and there, that cloud does not exist. And it's incredible.
Oh my gosh, I think that's the perfect place to end this. Like, if you're listening to this in November, guess what? This is the perfect time to start planning for next Christmas. Perfect. And do your best to get scrappy and stay within a budget for this year as well. Oh my gosh, Allison, thank you so much for coming on and having this very important conversation with me. Please tell everyone how they can stay connected to you.
Of course. Well, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I'm at Inspired Budget. And then I have a book, Money Made Easy, which you can get on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Bookshop. And this is really a great step-by-step read on how to pay off debt, save money, and write a budget without like giving up what you love in life. So I also have that book available as well.
Awesome. I told you guys we are sisters. I talk about that all the time, like how to build wealth without giving up the things you love. That is my mission. And I love that you have a book on that as well.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yes, it was so good to have you. I will see you all next time. Bye-bye. Hey, before you go, if you're ready to create a life with more money and more freedom, then you're invited to join the Wealthy Woman's Academy, my signature coaching program where you'll learn how to take control of your money and build wealth without sacrificing your lifestyle. To get started, head on over to jermainefoley.com/WWA. That's Jermaine with a G. See you over there. Bye-bye.